I think if it was easy, everybody would be successful. I decided to rescue her alone. Have to climb past the dead bodies and all that, and it's a humble reminder. Never do things for money. Have you ever heard about any winners making an excuse? Good to know that it's not gonna last forever, but what will last forever is.
So if you could just tell us who you are, what you do, and where you come from, that'd be great.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Nimsdai. I am a professional mountaineer now, and last year I climbed all the mountains above 8,000 meter peak, known as the Death Zone peaks, in just 6 months and 6 days. I was a former Gurkha, so I was born in Nepal. Obviously, I served with the special forces across the globe from the SBS, and yeah, here I am. So.
One thing I'd like to ask you is obviously you came from Nepal and you lived in Nepal, and so obviously you went and joined the British military. What was it like growing up in Nepal, for people who don't know?
Okay, for those who haven't been there and who doesn't know, one, Nepal is a third world country. It's quite poor, but we have a big heart. Okay, I'm telling you that. But yeah, growing up was really tough. We were very poor. My mom and dad. The story is they both eloped. So in Nepal, intercaste marriages and all that was really tough. Even now, so at that point you can imagine. So they were obviously had to do everything by themselves, and meaning that they had nothing. So as a kid, it was always tough. But eventually, my two brothers got into the Gurkhas, and obviously from there, things started to change a bit, a bit more. But yeah, but a lot of people, think obviously I was born in the altitude and all. Not really. I was born in like a 1600 meters of altitude, but then we moved to Chitwan, which is the most like warmest and flat part of the country, and it's so hot as well there. So yeah, I grew up in the most flat part of Nepal, and elevation is roughly 500 meters. So yeah, I wasn't born up in the mountain for sure.
And I think that's what everybody must believe. They must think that you obviously lived at the bottom of Mount Everest, which isn't always the case at all.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, when people, and also most people are, think when you are from Nepal and you're a climber or whatever, and then they just think you are born there, but it's never the case, or it's not always the case.
Family seems to be a massive theme in your life, especially your mother. And I know that your dad was a Gurkha, and then your brothers went off to join the Gurkhas as well. Yeah. And when that happens, is it like an immense amount of pride in the family that somebody's gone off and achieved it. Did that kind of set the tone in you wanting to become a Gurkha in the future?
Kind of, yes, buddy, because as I grew up, I saw my dad, he was, obviously he was retired. He was obviously in the Indian Gurkha though. But then I have my two brothers who were in the Buddhist Gurkhas, and whenever they come to Nepal, it was kind of different. They come with a big positive vibe, and they were so respected in the society and all that. So yeah, I just wanted to be one of them, and yeah, that's why and eventually I passed the Gurkha selection on my second attempt. But yeah,
you passed on your second attempt, but on your first attempt you came 26.
Yeah, so the selection at that point was really crazy, and it was, we call it Gallawalas. So it's like old retired army, nearly around in the Second World War and all that. So yeah, so there were like 25 vacancies. A lot of young guys from all around the like villages would gather, and we go for like the selection bit. And out of like 25 vacancies, and only 18 could do or pass this the physical test, and I was one of the 18. And I remember, we always stood up like that, and then he came and he just didn't like me, and he's like, yeah, off you go, and then he gave passes to number 26. So I had passed the stuff within like in number 18, so I was kicked out. So obviously 19, 20, 21, all the way to number 26, got the first initial pass. But yeah, when I went for second attempt, and when I made it on the second attempt, it was tough though, and then he was like, "Oh, I regret it, man. I should have selected you in the first time." But yeah, it all happens, So it's not only the toughest selection, but you also need to have a bit of luck as well, because it's such a huge competition. So, during my time, 32,000 people applied for it. So, and only 230 make it.
Small
Yeah,
amount.
it's almost like 1 in 1,000. Yeah.
It's interesting because in your story you seem to have doubters all the way through it, people that think that you can't achieve the things that you want to achieve. And does that drive you on then to motivate yourself to kind of push forward and prove people that you can?
And no, I think for me, looking back now, and obviously when I wrote this in a book, Beyond Possible, it gave me a lot of time to, actually figure out who I am and all that. And I think what I found out is everything what I have done so far, there is a love for that job. For example, when I was a kid, I just wanted to be a Gurkha. I really wanted to be part of that group. So I was in hostel. We're not allowed to leave the compound and all. But I would wake up at 2 o'clock, run depending upon the time, 25k or 30k, and I'll be just around just before 6 or 6:30, just pretending that I'm sleeping. But then that's me, no one would know that. So that was hard work and dedication I put into if I really want to do something. And now going into special forces as well, none of the Gurkhas had made it into special boat service, and the training regime was crazy. I used to carry 75 pound, tab 20k, and then I would arrive at this camp, military camp, around 7 o'clock. I do the normal physical training with the friends, with the obviously colleagues, and after that I do normal work from 8 to 5. And in the evening I would just run that 20k, but without the burden. I run back, then I go to the gym. Then I would have cycle 60 mile, and then I would do a freestyle swimming in a 25 meters swimming pool, about 100 of those, and I would finish at 10 o'clock. So that was hard work. I am, and I would never say today I'm tired. Today it's raining, and you know how cold it is in winter and all that. It's frosty, there's snow, there's all that. But I never kind of had an excuse saying that, oh, I'm too tired today, or I'm it's snowing or it's raining. Because if I say I'll do it. And it's also about being disciplined. And people say, yeah, you require a discipline, but then just being disciplined is not good enough. You need to be self-disciplined. And then that's only when you achieve the bigger stuff, I guess.
How do you manage to self-discipline yourself? Because it's not an easy.
It's not an easy. It's oh man, you tell me. It's not easy, And I think if it was easy, everybody would be successful. So if you want to be that person, whatever your aim is, whatever your goal is, you need to bring that. And I keep saying as well. And against anything, motivation isn't good enough. You need to be self-motivated. If there is somebody else motivating you and you try to achieve that, that's fake. It's not true. You need to bring that energy from your chest by yourself. And then only you become then you become not everybody. You'll be somebody. And if you want to, and that's the difference. Because the population of the earth is 8 billion. And if you want to be that 1 in 8 billion, you've got to work for it. No?
You said when you joined the Special Boat Service, SBS, something like 200 people try and get through, and maybe 4 or 6 make it.
Yeah, so normally, in UK Special Forces selection, there would be the guys, coming from, Army, Marines, Para, Air Force, Naval, everybody. And mostly those men who goes into the selection are they think they're the best within their unit or regiment. So this best of the best people come into this one, and then by the end of the 6 months, and sometimes you will have probably 5 or 6 passing it. You can get as much as that in low numbers. So it is tough.
You was going through SBS selection, and they do the kind of running through the beacons, and then they do the jungle, and there's other stuff they do. But I remember in the book where you mentioned that there was a kit inspection, that self-discipline again is crucially important, and you had your lid missing off your top.
Yeah, so I think with that one, sometimes, a lot of things, happen in the selection, because you got to operate in a very, very stressful environment. And yes, self-discipline, I wanted to be that, but then sometimes, you make mistake. We are, as the rule over there is, we're human. We make mistakes. But as long as you don't repeat that mistake again, you're done. And if you repeat that mistake again and again, then you're stupid. And I think, yeah.
In the kind of work that you're doing, mistakes cost lives. I suppose that's why it's so
Exactly.
important.
It could cost, not only the lives of the people, it could have even more like horrendous impact that you can think. So, yeah.
When the kit inspection happened, the kind of the SD.
Oh man, it was crazy. So I had failed my last like test marks on the selection. So if I fail another one, I'm going home. And I had made my promise to myself, like if I fail this selection, I'm gonna leave the Gurkhas, I'm gonna leave British military, and I'm just gonna be civvy. It's either in or out. So that was kind of my attitude. So I was like, oh my God, now please, don't let that happen. So when I did that, of course it was a mess up. So the DS gave me the biggest rock as a punishment to carry. And this particular route I hadn't wrecked it before. So, but what I felt about at that point was, you know what? Come on then, bring what you have. That kind of an attitude. You cannot change it. But you just like you come with a positive energy and see like, okay, show me then what can stop me. And yeah, I was the fastest man on that day. So
you completed the course faster than anybody else with the rock on your back.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's all in the mind, I guess, and it's all about how you take it.
When you're on the mountains and say the mountain puts a rock in your backpack, the mountain comes up with weather conditions which are hard. Does that kind of force you to think, okay then, come on then, it's all mental, whatever I can conjure in my mind to kind of tackle that? Is that how you'd think to get yourself through some of the tricky situations?
Yeah, and I think I kind of break it down as well. I don't think about the end bit. I'm just thinking, am I striking at the same pace? It's just literally down into micro. Am I doing my best, or am I just like chilling out and having a bit of laugh here? Then of course I'm not gonna make the the timing or whatever it is. So it's about like at that moment and giving the best at that point. So yeah.
The first mountain you climbed, you asked your Sherpa to let you let you climb a mountain that was quite big, and he said no, you can't do that at the moment. But what was the first mountain that you ended up climbing?
Okay, so it was in 2012 December. I think I was 29 years old, almost 30, I think. So that was when I first ever trekked to Himalayas. I never like climbed anything. I never knew about anything, and so on this trail, obviously as you go through Namche Bazaar is a really nice village in the elevation. It's beautiful. If you haven't like been there, you should go, man. And as you walk past, you see a massive mountain called Amadablam, and it dominates the whole of the Kumbh Valley, and it's so beautiful. And I said to my guide, I was like, hey brother, is there any chance I can climb this? And he laughed. He's like, names people who have climbed Everest give up on that mountain. I was like, oh okay. But then I really wanted to feel that experience of how it feels like reaching to the summit of this mountain. So convinced him, and we're taught how to wear the crampons in this Loguchi village, roughly around 5,000 meters, and we're just walking in the grass, replicating that snow and learning how to climb. And yeah, eventually we summited in the Loguchi, which is 6,200 meter peak, and then from there it just started for me.
How did it feel the first time you actually achieved it?
It was amazing, man. We were in the summit quite early in the morning, and then as the sun was coming out, it leads the whole of the Himalayan range. You can see the Everest, the Lhotse, the Nuptse, and all that range, and yeah, and you just feel like you're standing above the clouds and all that. Of course, you get like fresh cold air, hitting your face, and you just feel so fresh as well. But at the same time, you also worry about, now I have to go back down and all that. So yeah, you are like all your senses are so alive at that moment. I think it's such a good experience.
You ended up then climbing Everest at a later date. The first time you tried to climb it, was it solo?
Yeah, so I tried to do that in 2016, and it wasn't even planned. It was the opportunity came in when my leave from normally we get like 3 weeks leave between the operational tour and all that, but we got like 4 weeks leave, and I was like, I cannot just go and go on a beach holiday and do not do anything or achieve nothing. So I was like, what can I do? But at that same time, Everest was on. So I convinced my wife and went to the bank, told them I need a loan to buy a car, and then got £15,000. I still remember it at the interest rate of 3.9%, and emptied my saving, and I went to Nepal. And then it was another crazy experience there. Yeah.
Did you get sick between camp 1 and camp 2?
Yeah. So what happened was, I was almost a month behind in the rest of the season's mountaineer. Most of the people were waiting for the summit beat and all that. So, and I was trying to do it solo. So I was trying to carry all my oxygens and everything by myself and all that. So, yeah. And what happened was, at the end, I got like altitude sickness, which is HAPE. That's high altitude pulmonary edema. That's water in the lungs. Then I was so angry with myself, with all this knowledge, because at that point I had climbed Dhaulagiri already, the world's 7th highest mountain. I was in a mountain cell within the SBS. So I was like, all this knowledge, and it's like, yeah. But it's about, sometimes, not knowing your body enough, and you're pushing a bit more, and then that's what it leads into, those kind of, incidents. But then what I did was, I came down to Lukla. There's more detail in the book, obviously, just to, keep it very short. I tried to believe myself that I can heal. And my thought process was, if you got a same patient in the hospital with the same illness, the one who has got a positive mindset, the one who believes that he can heal better, will get better. So I was kind of self-meditating, thinking that I can get better, and eventually, I was 95% okay. And that's when I didn't only summit. That's when the rescue happened, and this rescue was particularly a huge role in my life. It played a massive role. So. As I was coming down around 8,450 meters, a climber was, she was left behind by the team and the guides. So, yeah, and I decided to, rescue her alone. And it took me 90 minutes to rescue from balcony down to Camp 4. And at that point, I handed to the rescue team. And just to give you an example, the rescue team took 2 days to bring her from Camp 4 to Camp 2. So that was like, and then at that point I realized, wow, if I have this oxygen at 8,000 meter, I can save someone's life like that. So even though my goal was to climb all this mountain without oxygen, at that point I realized it wasn't about the ego and all. So I changed my kind of, style. But yeah, so and then within 4 days of summiting Everest, I was in operation kicking doors. So, and nobody knew at this point other than my wife, not even my family. Nobody knew it, and yeah,
crazy stuff. Well, one of the themes that I get throughout the book is that as you start to venture on your journey, a lot of it becomes about kind of the pride behind being a Gurkha and showing people that you can do it, and then bringing Sherpas along with you.
Yeah.
And not just about yourself anymore, but kind of in a way you feel like you're not letting people down. Was that a big driving force which carried you on?
Yeah, massively. And for this project, not only one goal was enough. It's such a huge, long, endurance project that you need to have so much element. And yeah, the Sherpa brothers have always been close to my heart, and they are legends. And it's so amazing to kind of drive this force together as a Nepalese climbers and represent them in a highest level. So, but then I also represent the Gurkhas and all that. So sometimes you feel like you don't have any rights to let them down. Then you think like special forces, what you have done and the values and all that. Nobody tells you anything at the end of the day, but then it's a self-induced pressure that could be sometimes advantage, and that could be sometimes disadvantage, but it all depends upon how you capitalize that.
You got a break where you could then go and climb 3 mountains within 5 days, and then
oh yeah, 2017. Yeah, so in 2017, I was one of the lead instructor for the Gurkha expedition on Everest. So at this point, the Gurkhas were trying to put the first serving soldier on the summit of Everest, and what happened that year was, at first, the fixing team couldn't set the fixed lines. And what that means for us, again, I have gone into quite in-depth detail in the book, but for me it was like, the reputations of Gurkhas is on the line, because when you say you are a Gurkha, people think Everest is in your back garden, you should be climbing Everest and all that. So yeah, because everybody doesn't do enough research and all that. So I was like, even though that, so there is a reputational risk. And then second one was like, whenever in my life I will get another chance as my team as a Gurkhas to go and climb Everest another time, which was going to be the third time, because 2015 was unsuccessful because of the earthquake and all that. So then I decided, look, I'm gonna lead this team. So we gathered all the Sherpas, in a team of Sherpas and myself and one another instructors, and then we opened the route. And then that's like the Sherpas and Gurkhas working together to make this impossible happen. And yeah, we opened the route for not only our team but for the rest of the season's mountaineer. And after that, I came to Kathmandu. We partied with the boys, with the team. Then I went up again. Then I climbed Everest again, Lhotse, which is the world's 4th highest mountain, and Makalu, which is the world's 5th highest mountain, in 5 days. And in that 5 days in between, I stopped at Nimsdai Purja for partying for 2 nights. Otherwise, I could have done that in 3 days. And at the end, what happened was, I was at Makalu base camp. I was waiting for the helicopter to come and pick me up, because I had to be back in UK for my special forces tax. But then the heli didn't come because of the weather, and I couldn't just keep waiting. So I ran from the base camp to the Noom. So it's about like 6 to 8 days worth of trekking, depending upon who you are. And we covered that distance in just 18 hours, and I was still okay. So I was like, oh hello, this is something like I'm discovering myself. So at that point I realized I had so much to give into this mountaineering world and all that. So yeah.
Did you know before you went out there that you was that fit and mentally strong?
No. I of course I knew that I was strong and all, because climbing Everest in in 3 weeks without any prior acclimatization, and in that 3 weeks I lost almost 10 days to get healed. So I was climbing Everest almost in like less than 9 days, if honest. If I remove that recovery time. And then I climbed the Olagri in 14 days, and of course I felt like I was strong, but I never knew that I could do this at that point, until I did that Everest Lhotse Makali in 5 days.
As time went on, you pushed through your journey and decided to do like phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3 of it. What were some of the records that you broke while doing the project?
There are so many, I can't remember. The biggest I broke definitely was climbing all the 14 highest mountain in just 6 months, 6 days. Breaking the previous record of nearly 8 years. The second one is I climbed Everest, Lhotse and Makalu, this time in just under 48 hours. The other one I can remember is I climbed all the mountain of Pakistan. Pakistan mountain was really tough, and in just 23 days. And I didn't sleep for 19 days almost, and it was tough, man. But yeah, as I say, nothing's impossible.
So in them 23 days, you didn't sleep in 19 days?
Yeah. Back-to-back climb. I had to slap myself. I had to put snow in my armpit. I had to shout. It was crazy, brother.
As you go through it, do you feel stronger or do you get weaker? How does it work for you?
Of course you get degraded, but then it's only a body. You just got to get control of that. And what it does is the brain. It's the mental.
You must have been through some immense amount of pain, like pushing through all these journeys. How do you deal with it?
There were some moments where I was so much, tired. I was in so much pain that I was just expecting, like, I wish this, big mountain and the avalanche come and bury me and kills me, because all pain, everything is over. So I was like, quite at some point, expecting that to happen. But they were like, Jesus, no, Nims, you are here for a reason. You got to do this. Come on, like all that. So of course, there's always ups and downs in this kind of extreme adventure. So, but it's about how you deal with that and how you turn that negative energy into positive, and just make it work. So yeah.
One thing that I got from the book that I found quite interesting is, if you look at Project Possible, you think that somebody would have to be a robot to do it. You're like, it's not achievable. But when I was reading through the book, you speak about the kind of the doubts that do creep into your mind at times, but then you kind of combat that through positive thinking.
Oh, 100%. Oh yeah, exactly. For example, at one point when I was going for my world record in 2017, my oxygen was stolen. I knew that, but then if you just go mental and just like, oh, who is still my oxygen, you know, at that altitude when your brain is not functioning properly and you are getting out of the control, it's not good for anybody else. Then I had to believe myself, a fake belief, but then I had to believe like, yes, your oxygen probably have been used to save someone's life. So I turned that by myself, believing that into that by myself, injecting into my brain by myself, and just believing, yes, it's been there to use someone's life, and someone is alive now. He's probably with his family, or she's with his family. So come on, Nims, it's good. Now let's make this work. So you got to think like that.
So straight away you just turn the negatives up.
You got to, buddy. Otherwise, you know, yeah.
People obviously die on the mountains where you are, and obviously you came across some experience which could have killed you. When you're climbing, do you block that stuff out, or does it ever enter your head?
Yeah, it does. You always come. Have to climb past the dead bodies and all that, and it's a humble reminder. It's like, it could be one of you. You could be one of them. So it's just like, knock on the face. We're like, oh, come on, switch on, But yeah, it's a very, very, like quite dangerous sport where your one decision could make you successful, and that same decision could be the end of your life. So
one thing that I read in the book was obviously that Project Possible isn't just climbing 14 peaks. You have to find funding, you have to do planning, it takes a lot of time, and you ended up giving up basically your job, your career to do so. There's a massive risk.
Oh, but I think the manner, the way I did with my team, with the whole endeavor is the next level. For me, I had only 6 years left to get my full pension. It's a huge job security, So I obviously first give up that. Then eventually I had to put my house into remortgaging. There's another level of security gone. Then the third level, like no one is believing in this vision. No one is thinking that it's possible. So there's no sponsorship coming through. Then there's a problem in terms of like the politics happens as this gets bigger. My mom's health is like getting really bad, so there is like psychological effect. Then you got the climbing itself, and then you got the logistics. So the list goes on and on, buddy. So yeah,
a lot of people wouldn't have gave up on that security. Was there any? I suppose there was questions. Should I do it? But how important is it to take a risk to do something which is purposeful?
No, for me, I never do things for money, because at the end of the day, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how much money you have. You're just gonna leave it in this earth, and you're gonna go. When you die, you just die. So, and I don't see that as my purpose and values. For me, it's purely about the purpose and the love for what I do. And I never joined special forces to be a general or to make money. I joined because I wanted to be part of that cool group. I wanted to be good enough to be part of that those elite fighting men, and that was the desire, not to not any other stuff. And even though you get paid double than the military normal military colleagues, even though your pension is better, even though you get you stay in a 5-star hotel and all this kind of like James Bond stuff that you hear, but then it wasn't for the financial gain, to be honest. And I think if you put financial gain over a mission, then I don't think that will always be successful. But again, it could be completely different for somebody else. If you really want to make so much money, and that's what you love and that's your purpose, then do it, because that's what it makes you happy. So there's nothing really good and bad on this one, and it's about everybody's different. But for me, money doesn't buy me. So yeah,
I think that's quite a noble thing. I don't know if everybody would have that same kind of mindset, but I'm sure a lot of people do. And when you look back on what you've achieved now, you did the right thing. Mm-hmm. But going through the 6 months, the 6 days, was there any time, obviously you told people what you was going to do, people didn't believe in it and then they got behind you? Was there any point where you thought to yourself, no, it's not going to happen?
No, not at all. I always had confidence that it's going to happen. There was not even a single doubt. Yeah, and I think you need that kind of an attitude. It's not overconfidence, it's just a confident, And if you are doubting yourself, how you can achieve that mission? in the first place. And if you're doubting that, that's you losing the battle. Even you go into this ring, you got to think that you're gonna go and win that match. And that's why you get all those, you make good decisions, you're positive, and that's why the small things matter. So, yeah, it's all about, also it's about imagining yourself, yeah. So, yeah, there was no doubt.
When you say that imagining yourself, are you thinking of the end goal?
Yeah, 100%, the end goal. You have to sometimes imagine that. And you got to, picture that. So when I was in the selection, when I was going through so tough, I was just imagining myself as one of those, cool elite operator, doing exactly what James Bond does, but in real time. So that was sometimes it takes that, but then you need all that kind of sort. The small victory. It's not a big victory, but you get small things that you pick up, that what gives you the drive, and then that only lead into certain part of that mission. Then you have another driving force. So it's like that, yeah.
One of the things that I find outstanding about what you did was a lot of people, if they decided to do the 14 highest peaks over 8,000 meters, their team, you would think that somebody would die. Every one of your team members came back safe with their lives.
Well, yeah, so it's a really, I'm quite proud to say that I have led 28,000 meter peak expedition, and out of all 20 been all successful in terms of reaching to the summit and also bringing everyone back down exactly the way they left. So it's been quite, good track record, I would say, and it was quite important for me, and it's all about dynamic risk assessment. It's about looking, seeing things ahead and mitigating that risk, preventing and all that. So yeah,
the people that you picked to do the project possible with you,
yeah,
I can imagine a lot of people would have probably said that's not possible.
Yeah, even my team were they were doubting, but then my team were also pretty novice climbers. Most of them were, and yeah, and also when I put onto this project, because they were doing rotations and I was putting them with me in the mountains that they haven't climbed before. So normally if people climb Everest and all that, they would have somebody else who has climbed that mountain before, so they can obviously, it helps a lot. You can see the route at night, you can guide, you can tell how far it is, all these things matter. But then I wasn't doing that. I was like, okay, you haven't climbed that mountain, you're gonna go on that mountain. And it's about fairness. I also wanted to give these guys an opportunity, and some of them have climbed in 8,000 meter peak with me. It's just building that team, but it's also about recognizing how much drive they have, how much they want to be part of this team, and as a leader, you got to be a great in a team player as well. And if you can't be a team player and if you can't be teammates, you can't be a leader.
Goes hand in hand.
It goes hand in hand. So you got to think for the other people as well, even if you just go as a selfish and all that, all about yourself, yeah, it's not gonna happen.
It's crazy that obviously that some of the mountains, you'd only climb 4 mountains that was it 4 mountains out of the 14 before? So what was the 10 mountains that you still never climbed and decided to ascend them?
Yeah, so I'd only climbed 4 out of 14 before, and all the mountains were new to me, and yeah.
When you're picking your team, you're looking for something in somebody. If somebody's going to do this challenge with you, yeah, what are the main things that you're looking for in them to be able to do it?
Well, it's the desire, when that's why the first mountain, Annapurna, was running a mini selection for them, So, and that's when, but Migma was always close to me, he's my right hand, and Migma, I met him, when his uncle passed away. He was my first ever guide, in 2012, the story I told you. So he was my kind of mentor as well. Then he passed away in that Khumbu icefall incident that happened in 2014. And I met Migma David from there, and he helped me a lot as well. But I was also working with the friends from 7 Summits like Dawa and all that. So yeah, all kind of it's kind of getting that the Nepalese community and kind of seeing who has got the same desire to make this happen, and yeah.
The Sherpas in Nepal, who obviously guide people up the mountains, they risk their life for sometimes not a lot of money, right? When they're taking tourists up there, is it Is it quite a hard life for them at the beginning until they climb mountains and get that experience?
Yeah, so of course, it's a third world country, so the life is tough and all that. But eventually, once they climb the more mountains and the more experience they have, then they started making a bit more money and all that. So yeah.
One thing that I haven't really sensed from you, we spoke about doubts coming into your mind, but I never really sensed fear. The only one time that I picked up on it was maybe when you said at boarding school, sometimes people used to try and steal stuff off you, but then you learned to kickbox, became a kickboxer, and then you fought against them. Did you face up to fear from an early age?
I think, but if I say I don't have a fear, then I'm lying. I do have a fear. I'm human as well, but I kind of manage that properly. For example, like I'm doing this speed flying, or let's say when you're back of this, Hercules, or going for any mission. Of course, you're gonna have like hairs coming in the back of your neck and all that, but then you cannot just let that fear freeze you. You just have to turn that into again the positive. You cannot let it become so overwhelmed that you cannot do anything. Just like now, just boom boom. Now if you do everything right, if you just focus on that moment where you're doing, then you'll be okay. If people worry about how you're doing rather than what you're doing right now, then you're gonna mess up. So yeah.
You obviously, some of the situations you talk about, you'll get fight or flight. And some people will fight, some people will fly. But you said that you was able to control your fear. Mm-hmm. Is it about focusing in that present moment and thinking about...
Oh yeah, it's about living in that moment, thinking about what you can do right now, giving 100% in order to avoid XYZ. So yeah.
I'm just going to read some words out, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's completely
and
fine.
Then you just tell me kind of what they mean to you.
Okay, pal.
So the first word would be struggle.
It's real.
Teamwork.
Is the success.
Fight.
Fight. What is fight? Well, fight is you got to fight for the cause.
Doubters.
Well, let them be.
Mindset.
Positive mindset.
Can overcome anything, you think?
Yeah, positive mindset can overcome anything.
Purpose.
Jesus, I cannot just say one word, man, but what I can say is purpose. If you have a purpose in life, and if that's something that you love doing that as well, then you'll be successful. You need to have purpose in order to do bigger mission. You can't just do it for the sake of doing it, if that makes sense.
That's good. I think them kind of answers work better. So don't think about just answering one word.
Okay.
If you want to give you an explanation, that's great.
Okay,
that
cool.
works better. The next one would be excuses.
Well, it's for the losers, and have you ever heard about any winners making an excuse? No, well, that tells the answer.
Pain.
Well, it's temporary. It is temporary. I don't know whoever said it, some great, sportsman, and they have said it. It is temporary. You got to know that it's not gonna last forever. But what will last forever is your failure. By not, enduring that pain, not taking that pain and just like reaching out, not knowing and having that, mindful that pain is temporary. You just have to supersede that.
Hard work.
Well, hard work is required. Everything in life doesn't just happen. Success doesn't just comes. You got to put your time, effort, hard work, dedications, and you need all those components to lead towards your end goal.
Death.
It's certain. It is certain. It's sad that we all have to go, but what you do when you leave is what it matters. Don't try to be that everybody whose death doesn't matter to anybody else. Try to be somebody that you have an impact. Not necessarily you got to impact the whole world, but then even if you're that person, you are like being a really good family man, you are being a good husband or whatever it is, but then you're having that impact. It's good enough. But yeah,
I love that answer. That was a good answer. Sacrifice.
Without sacrifice, nothing bigger happens. Everything's not given. It's a fine balance. But yeah. And again, just coming into that sacrifice, it's not only about you as a person. It's about, like, for example, a lot of people around me have sacrificed what they want in order for me to achieve this. It's a whole teamwork, it's a family. And of course, as a person, you sacrifice stuff as well, but then other people are doing as well. So it's a whole kind of like, I don't know, it's a cycle that evolves around, and for somebody to be successful, everybody has to sacrifice something. And for example, if you got a great coach who is training you, he's sacrificing some time and all that. So without sacrifice, nothing happens. So you have to give something.
I picked that up a lot from, obviously, with your wife, and you go with her and you say, I'm going to do this, we might end up with nothing.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that? And she kind of trusting you and sacrifice, which is a big thing. There was like a motto that you live your life by. Was it courage before everything?
No, it's we have a motto when you are obviously in the Gurkhas. It's better to die than to be a coward. So,
what does that truly mean to Gurkhas?
It means, well, for me, it means a lot. It means everything. I would rather die than to be a coward. It's a fact. So, and in the book Beyond Possible, I think you'll find a chapter around when I was in operation and the stuff I did. So, I think find more on the book, buddy. But yeah, and everyone who is like listening or watching this podcast. So yeah, more over there for you.
Yeah, there is a lot more detail in the book, and you do break it down in a way that's really engaging. Like I said, I'm not a reader, but I managed to read a lot of that book.
Oh man, thanks. And the whole book is not about all my achievement. It's just kind of giving people a idea, and they can kind of relate this in their life, and what it makes you successful. And the motivation, what motivates me, what drives me, why I'm so kind of disciplined, and all this kind of stuff. So hopefully people will find something in this book that they can relate, and hopefully they will achieve their new possible.
One part of the book that related to me, which I found was not strange actually, but you expect obviously somebody climbing the mountains and whatnot to be quite like you have to be a strong character, and sometimes you don't always link kind with it. But I noticed you said there's two things you kind of really wanted to be. You either wanted to be Gurkha or Robin Hood. And there's
so okay, exactly on the book. So you are right, buddy. When I was a kid, my first aim was to be a Gurkha. And I was thinking, if I don't pass this, what I wanted to be was a Robin Hood version of a Nepali. So I wanted to be the most corrupted inspector, because you have the obviously uniform, and then I just wanted to rob these like people who doesn't pay tax, who are like so rich, but then seeing of all these poor people. I just wanted to rob them and then just give this money to all the like poor people and all that, and that's what I wanted to be at that point. And yeah, thinking back, if I wasn't in the Gurkha, maybe I would be Inspector General Police of Nepal, or I would have been probably dead. I don't know, but yeah.
But it shows that shows that you're a very kind person, because you're always putting other people before yourself.
I have a heart, mate. I have a heart, and this is who I have been always throughout my whole life. It's like everyone, little things makes me happy, and little things make me sad. We are human, and you see like me as a robust and all that, but at the end of the day, we are human, and I like to kind of treat people how I wanted to be treated and all that. If somebody comes with a big head and just like that, I just put him into back his shoes, because you don't need to do that. But if somebody comes with a really nice subtle approach, I just respect him probably 10 times more than I do, because it's the way. And then the bottom line is, folks, if you are watching this, doesn't matter what you do in life, you will always find someone bigger. You always find someone is stronger. You will always find someone good looking, handsome, beautiful, whatever it is, than you in whatever thing that is. But then you are just fighting your own war. Don't compete against anybody else. Just try to be best and better than who you were yesterday. and then you will do so much well. Then you'll like you not have all this jealousy, because the jealousy will kill you and all that stuff. So rather than all these things, focus on this kind of stuff. And of course, I have learned, throughout this, endeavor. I'm now 38, but I have lived my life probably in the speed of 100 miles per hour, and it's been pretty fast. And so there are some lessons over there. Yeah, take it or leave it, up to you. But hey,
that leads me nicely to my last question. I wanted to ask you, obviously, at the start of Project Possible to the end, going into it, what was the biggest thing that you learned about yourself at the end of it?
Jesus, I'm still discovering, buddy. So of course there are a lot of things that I've learned throughout this mission, and which I have obviously put on the books, like the lesson learned and all that. And I hope the readers will find that quite useful, because it's quite punchy, and I'm just putting that and all that. So but yeah, there are like millions of lesson learned. But yeah, stay humble, and do a thing.
If you had some advice to give to somebody who had their own Project Possible, somebody who wanted to do something that was their dream, but they wasn't too sure if they could do it, what advice would you give them?
Do not let anyone tell you that you are impossible, because everyone is not you. No one knows you better than yourself. Only you know who you are. So if you believe in that, just go for it. And if you don't believe in that, who's going to believe in that? So just commit and make that happen. So yeah.
Saw that you did a post when you went home and you met your mother, and it looked like there's a lot of love there. Can you talk about that? So you give a lot to your mum, like you say you give a lot to your mum.
Yeah, so a lot of people ask me, what was the happiest moment of the whole, project, and for me it wasn't not necessarily, reaching to the summit, because I had so many mountains to think about, but the highlight of the trip was definitely when I finished my project, my last mountain, Sisapangma. I had my mother coming, to pick me up in this helicopter. And now going back into this story, my mom was very ill, my dad was very ill as well, and I was sending money home every month from the pay that I would get from special forces. So when I resigned, they were like, "Oh, you are resigning because we are such a burden to you, and you have to send money to us to look after us. So you just wanted to get rid of that." And I was like, "No, Mom, I got bigger mission, bigger purpose than all these things. The mission that I'm doing is bigger than me, my family, and everything." So then, in that perspective, then when I finished the project, and then she came there, and when we landed at Kathmandu, it was like crazy, man. There were so many journalists, so many cameramen, and next time I had seen something like that was when David Beckham was in Nepal. People were pushing each other, fighting to take a picture, have that interview, and then there was a band of Nepalese police and all that playing the band, and it was such a hero welcome. And then my mom witnessed that, and she was so happy, and I was just happy to see her happy, man. So that was the highlight of the trip.
And then the last one is, when you are gone, everything that you've done, what would you like people to say about you, and what would you like them to think about you and say about you when they hear your name?
I don't think I haven't reached at that point to make that, and I think I don't really want people, or I don't want it to say what people want me to remember for. I think it has to be natural. People will remember me for something, and yeah, it has to be natural. I don't want to say. People will say for me.
I'm sure you've touched many people's lives, people you haven't even met, and I think the book that you've wrote, people that read it, it could be a life changer for people. It could be a book that they read and think that they're going to do their Project Possible, or it's going to inspire them to do something. Mm-hmm. So I think you will touch a lot of people, but naturally they'll think what they think of you.
So yeah, no.
Thanks, man.
Bro, inspiring.
Cool.
Yeah. Amazing.
Thank you for watching, guys. A massive thank you to Nims. It was one of my favourite interviews to sit on and listen to his story. He is a huge inspiration, and his book is out now. That link is in the description. If you want to support projects like this in the future, please consider becoming a YouTube member. Again, links are down below.
So yeah, guys, if you want to see the behind the scenes of this video and previous videos, go to our vlog channel in the description.